What is going on, traders? We got a few things to discuss, but we'll try to make this video quick. Before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, in my last video, I pretty much let you guys know that Friday seemed like a bear trap, and that's exactly what we got heading into today. Bears got trapped Friday. Today was pretty much bullish. Majority of the day was bullish. We didn't really get much of a sell off like we saw on Friday evening. So, congratulations if you were bullish and you traded the upside today. But what are my expectations heading into tomorrow? Well, first we got to look at what's happening tomorrow. So tomorrow morning at 9:30 Eastern, I'm not sure why no one's talking about this, but Chairman Powell is speaking. So I would imagine that's pretty important. Not only that, but we have job openings as well at 10 a.m. Eastern. I imagine that's pretty important. So something to keep in mind if you are a trader that focuses on news or you try to steer away from news. But my expectations heading into tomorrow, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If we're looking at the daily time frame. The triple Qs has been trading within this range or this channel for a very long time. You guys see I'm not making this up. We rejected here, we rejected here, we rejected here as well. We bounced here, we bounced here. And right now we're back at the top of that channel. We get a closer look at the 4-hour time frame. You guys see that we have a smaller channel or upwards channel on the 4-hour time frame as well. And we broke below that channel. Not only did we break below that 4-hour channel, we broke well, we didn't break, but we rejected the top of that daily channel I just showed you guys as well. Not only are we rejecting that, but we are rejecting the top of this supply and demand zone at around 483, which I told you guys was a key level in my last video. So, something to be really skeptical about. Now, I will say we're still pretty safe if we're bullish. We're still pretty safe. We're still within the supply and demand zone. We haven't broken below it. But I did tell you guys that if we're going to break out of the supply and demand zone, whether it's to the downside or the upside, we're going to need news. If we're going to break to the downside at around 478, 475, we're going to need bad news. And I imagine that tomorrow, Chairman Powell and job openings is going to be the catalyst that causes those moves. But given where we are, given the position that we are, since we're at the top of this daily channel, and given how history has been repeating itself as of lately, and how often we rejected the top of this channel, I have to lean to the point that we may see a little bit of downside heading into tomorrow as long as we stay below this channel. All right, as long as we stay within it. Now, a move I would like to see if I'm going to be bullish is a break back above 483 on the triple Qs. I will be really comfortable if we see 485. We break back into this range. We break back into this 4-hour channel, and we break back above the daily channel. Maybe retest and then start heading towards newer highs. That would be the move I would like to see as far as upside. As far as downside goes, I would like to see a break below 478. After 478, you're looking at a move towards 476, 475, give or take, and then you're going to see a move towards that 473, 470 area. So those are the moves I'm looking at. And I guess my point that I'm getting at here is that right now we're just looking like we're retesting. It doesn't look like we're trying to break further to the upside or anything like that. Granted, bulls are tough. I'm going to give them that. They're strong in this market. I'm not going to take that away. But right now, things just simply look like we're retesting. I mean, we're pretty much back to where we started as far as the NQ and the ES, which we're going to get into. We look at the SPY. SPY, pretty much the same thing. You guys see it here. Everyone's talking about this double top. That's great, but it doesn't really matter until we break below 542. We break below 542. That is our neckline for this double top. Then it is officially confirmed. We'll start heading towards 540, and I think we can head as low as 537. But look where we are on the SPY. Not only that, but we're retesting the daily supply and demand zone on the SPY. We've broken below it plenty of times, and we're simply retesting the daily supply and demand zone. Now, does this mean there's no room for upside? No, it doesn't mean that. But we have to be cautious here. Okay. Now, if we look at the daily time frame, it's pretty much the same thing we saw on the triple Qs, but I will say there's more space to the upside as far as the SPY goes. Okay. We zoom out. You guys see it here. I didn't mark the rejection and bounce points, but hopefully you guys see it. We rejected here multiple times in this area, bounced here, bounced here. So not making this stuff up, right? And again, we're below this daily supply and demand zone. We have a potential double top forming. We break below 542. We can easily start seeing 537, which is where this gap is at around, well, at 537, right here. Okay, in this area here is where this gap is. I imagine if we were to fill this gap, I think this week would be the perfect week. And I know that's speculation or whatnot, but I would think a 3.5 day week would be a perfect time to get rid of this gap. Then we start heading towards new highs next week, heading into big tech earnings. I think that would be perfect. I would love that move. But again, I have to be skeptical. I'm pretty neutral. Okay, I'm pretty neutral right now. And like I said, it looks like we're just retesting these supply and demand zones and retesting these patterns so far. That's what it's looking like. All right. I know that's probably like a hell of bullish people out there, bullish traders out there, but I'm gonna sit on the fence line and just wait to see how things play out. Because again, Chairman Powell speaks tomorrow. I think that's pretty important, and job openings is tomorrow. Now, in order for me to be bullish again, I would like to see a more convincing candle within the supply and demand zone. If we can get that, then I would be a little bit more bullish. But I do have to say that all these bullish wicks down here are very, very tough. Okay. If we're going to stop these guys out of position, I imagine Powell's going to have to say something crazy. So that's what I'm looking at. I would like to see a break above 550. We break above 550, guys, we can start squeezing. Like, I think we genuinely will start squeezing to the upside. We can start heading towards 560 easy. I think it will happen like pretty fast, if I'm going to be honest. But that's what I'm looking at as far as the SPY and the triple Qs. We look at the NQ. Same thing, guys. Same thing. We go to the daily time frame. I might have erased it. Yeah, I erased it. But right here, right here. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Right here, maybe a head and shoulders pattern here. You got your head here, shoulder here. Granted, we don't have a red candle here to play out this shoulder, but if we start heading to the downside in after hours, this may play out. This may play out. If we can't get above, and just so you guys know, I'm not trying to force downside or anything because I was literally bullish in my last video. Okay. So if you're new here, I was literally bullish. I said it was a bear trap in the last videos. I don't want no one coming here like, you're wrong. You're a perma bear. All right. But look here. Look where we are. Okay. We zoom in, and right now, we're pretty much, it's nothing significant, but we're pretty much, it looks like we're trying to reject here. This could play out to be a head and shoulders pattern. It can. All right. Not the cleanest, I will say that much, but it's on the table. It is on the table. I would like to see us get above 20,100 on the NQ. After that, I think we'll start heading towards 20,250 to 260 range. Highest we can go is 20,500 if I'm going to be bullish. But again, if we're looking at the NQ, we still have this gap all the way down to 19,600. And I told you guys in the last video, NQ, ES, they don't leave their gaps open for too long, unlike the SPY and the triple Qs. So again, something to pay attention to. All right. Something to really pay attention to. And I know I told you guys gaps manipulate you to prevent you from trading. Trust me, these gaps are not preventing me from trading. We're still trading. But I just want you to be cautious. Okay. I want you to be cautious. Now, um, as far as downside goes, 19,815. We broke below 19,900. I told you guys we were heading to 19,700. Bulls are just too powerful. They said no, we're not ready yet. Not only that, but I didn't keep in mind that this gap's support right here starts here in this area. So 19,800. After that, you're looking at 19,700. You start breaking below that, you're heading toward this gap fill all the way down to 19,600. Lowest you could potentially go is 19,400. We'll talk about that if we ever get there. That's what I'm looking at as far as NQ. ES. ES, we're looking at potentially the same thing here. Okay, same thing. Still a gap down here as well on the ES. Now, this gap isn't as big as the NQ, but it's still there. Okay, but bulls are still very, very strong here. I will say that much. Bulls are very strong. They held, I told you guys last video, 5,500 is your key level, and they held very strong. Okay, so we will say that much. But as far as downside goes, we start breaking down to 5,500 or below 5,500. We're going to be where these guys are, right in this area. These are the guys that most likely push things up because look what happened here. We we pretty much consolidated here and then we pushed her further up. So these guys here most likely are keeping things up. Okay, I tell you guys all the time. Wicks tell you where sellers and buyers are. These are buyers in this area. 100%. I mean, this should convince you right here. This huge candle right here should convince you. So that's what I'm looking at as far as the ES 5500. As far as upside goes, you want to see us break above 50, 55.40, and then after that, 55.50 obviously will be your psych level, 55.58, 55.60 range. Okay, that's what you're looking at as far as upside. But right now, I got to play devil's advocate. It's looking a little sketchy. Okay, but if we're going to go with the overall trend, then go with the overall trend. That's a safe bet. I can't argue with that. But me, I'm going to sit back, relax, see what happens with Chairman Powell, see what he says, and go from there. Let's look at some stocks real quick. Apple. Right now, Apple is within the supply and demand zone. This 4 hour supply and no, actually, this is the daily supply and demand zone. Rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, so on and so forth. And then we attempted to break below, bull step back in. So you could say this is a good sign, but right now I'm still a little skeptical right here as well. All right. So that's what I'm looking at as far as Apple. Do I think Apple can head to 250? Absolutely. In the long term, absolutely. I think I wouldn't even be surprised it happens before its earnings because Apple has a history of running into its earnings. But right now, have to be have to play devil's advocate. Have to play devil's advocate. Tesla. Tesla. I told you guys 210 was my target, 220 was my target as well. I think we're going to head towards 220. Highest I'm looking at is 230 for Tesla. They have delivery numbers tomorrow. Maybe they come in bad or maybe they surprise. I don't know. We'll see. But I imagine if anything was going to make Tesla go to 220 or maybe to 230, it would be those delivery numbers. I don't think it's going to go to 230 right away, but 220 is definitely on the table. Now, I will say, worst case scenario, if the delivery numbers or if Tesla even cares about delivery numbers and decides to go down, we could start heading back towards 197, 195 range. We'll talk about that when we get there. But you want to see 207 hold on Tesla, 207, 205, 202.5, and after that, 200. Okay. But you'll start heading towards these guys if we do start breaking down. Let's go to the 4 hour time frame so you guys can get a better view. Right here, where these guys are. All this turbulence here, this is where you're going to head if Tesla decides to drop because of whatever news. Okay. So something to pay attention to. If Tesla does head towards 200, between 200 and 195, I think that's an excellent buying opportunity. If we don't see 220 prior to that, I think that will be an excellent buying opportunity, in my opinion. Do what you want with that information. We look at the options chain for Tesla. Uh, Tesla, let's see. We look at the options chain for Tesla. You got 200 puts that came in, so that would make sense if we are looking at a retest heading into maybe tomorrow, Wednesday, whatever the case may be. But you also have 220 calls, 210 calls, 205 puts, 210 puts, 195 puts. So again, I told you guys 195, between 195 200 is a beautiful buying opportunity. So whales are in agreement right now. And then you got 190 puts. I don't know what would cause that. Somebody might have to say something crazy. That's a 2 million premium, so something you might not want to take that too lightly. But if anything, I imagine we may continue to go up during after hours or whatever the case may be. Head to 220. You got 225 calls, 230 calls. These can simply be hedges as well, so that's something to keep in mind. 197.5 puts. So yeah, if Tesla blesses you with 195 entry, the 195 put does bug me a little bit, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. Then I would definitely look to as a buying opportunity. But that's only if it happens before we see 220. Okay, only if. All right, we see 220, maybe 230 prior to Tesla dropping to 195 or 200, then I probably will be less interested at that point unless something new comes up that can give me another price target to the upside. All right, so that's what I'm looking at as far as Tesla. Let's look at the SPY real quick, see what SPY options flow is. So it's a mixture of things. You got 545 calls, 546 calls, 544 puts, 543 puts. These are all for tomorrow as well. So July 2nd, 547 calls, 548 calls, 545 calls, 550 calls. These are actually for July 5th right here. These two. You got 540 puts for tomorrow, 541 puts for tomorrow. So yeah, everything's lining up for potential downside to that 537 level as well. But we're not going to ignore the calls. So what I will say is this: if the initial move, okay, so when Jerome Powell speaks historically, the initial move is normally the wrong move. What does that mean? That means usually before he speaks, the market either goes up or down. Duh, right? But based on whatever the original direction is, usually after he speaks, maybe 30 minutes after he speaks, the market goes the opposite direction. That's historically, feel free to check it out. But for example, if the market opens up bullish and just continues to run and run and run while Jerome Powell is speaking, and then as soon as he just stops speaking, the market starts to tank, that's what I mean. If the market just starts to drop while he's speaking, like it's just dropping while he's speaking because I don't know, they don't like what he's saying, whatever the case may be, and then after he stops speaking, the market starts to run up, that's what I mean. Okay, so usually the initial move is the wrong move when Powell is speaking. All right, so do what you want with that information. If you don't want to play it, if you don't want, that's by all means don't do that. I don't blame you. Sit back, watch, see if that actually plays out. That's what I will recommend. All right, but Amazon. Last stock I'm gonna look at is Amazon real quick. Amazon right now is at this 4 hour supply and demand zone. So that's what I mean by a lot of things just simply look like they're retesting, and that's what's leading me to be skeptical here. Again, I would like to see NQ break above 2100, 20,100. I would like to see ES break above 5550. I would like to see SPY, of course, break above 550 or at least get back in the supply and demand zone. So we'll say 547 at least. Um, and that's what I would like to see. I would like to see triple Qs get above 485, get back in this range up here. Hopefully you guys like let's actually go to the daily time frame so you guys can remember what we're looking at here. But yeah, I would like to see in triple Qs just simply do this. Just get back up here. Right in this range above at least 485. We'll say 486 to be safe. Get back in here, and then at that point, you're probably just going to start heading towards newer highs. And that newer high could go as high as about 500, 505. I know it sounds like a crazy number, but I still stick by what I say. I think we're going to run into big tech earnings. Now, does that mean we're not going to get a dip? Absolutely not. We can get a dip along the way, but I do think we're going to start keep running into big tech earnings. It's also important to note that usually the week of July 4th is pretty bullish. So want you guys to keep that in mind. That doesn't mean we're not going to see any dips. Okay, me personally, 537 on the spy, that drop is not that big of a drop. Like I don't think that's a big of enough drop to be panicking over. I think that's a great retest area. I think we'll just fill the gap and just continue up from there. So I would think that's a beautiful buying opportunity. That's just my opinion. Do what you want with that information. That's really all I have for this video, guys. Hopefully, you guys got something out of it. Until the next video, traders, have a good one.